Well, Kayla, I appreciate you joining me today. This story is a very interesting one, and it's a story that actually was pretty shocking at first, and then it was solved pretty quickly. But we're going to get into the ins and the outs of this because Westward Elementary School in Michigan reportedly censored students from being able to choose specific songs that they wanted to choose for a talent show. I'll let you explain. What is the backstory here?
Yes. Well, it came about very quickly. So 2 days ago, on April 29, a dad in West Michigan reached out to us here at First Liberty and said, my 9-year-old wants to sing a Christian song, and the school told him that he can't. And so we jumped on it right away. It turns out the sweet 9-year-old had been practicing all month, and he had let the school know over a month ago what his song was going to be. It's called That's Who I Praise by Brandon Lake, who is obviously very popular right now. He was just on American Idol's Songs of Faith special over Easter weekend. And he was so excited to sing this song. And lo and behold, one of the teachers called his mom and told him that she thought it was too Christian based, that it would violate the separation of church and state, and asked him to change the song. Now the parents kind of before we stepped in, they spoke with the principal because they wanted to get a second opinion on this and sort of give her a chance to do the right thing. And she sort of doubled down and said, you know, this the lyrics that I reviewed had some language about worshiping God, and they were very clear about worshiping God. And it sounded like she hadn't reviewed any other lyrics. It was just this one religious song that was flagged for her review. And the parents were really concerned about that. And so the principal did seem to agree that she would let the boy audition with the song he had practiced, because the audition was today. So he didn't really have time to learn a new song. But then she said, even if he makes it, he's going to have to change the song. And the parents just didn't feel right about that. You know, they said, I thought that he had some religious freedom here. This is his passion. He loves God. He loves sharing his faith. And, you know, it's a very positive song. There's nothing threatening or harmful in it at all. It's very appropriate and very positive. And so that's when we stepped in. We sent a letter to the school late last night, really just asking them to do the right thing. We explained that the First Amendment protects religious expression in schools, especially when it's coming from students. That's very clear under Kennedy and all sorts of other Supreme Court case law that's been on the books now for a long time. And this really should be an easy matter to resolve. And sure enough, it was. Just this morning, we got a note from the superintendent saying, you know, there had been a mistake, a misunderstanding, a lack of knowledge about the guidelines for religious expression. And so now the school is allowing both our young client and his sister to participate in the talent show and sing their Christian songs. So the great outcome.
It's a great outcome and a quick outcome. This happened very quickly. Even the press releases, you know, of the initial announcement and then the solution, they came almost back to back, which that's always nice for you guys. I'm sure not having to go to court or not having to file a lawsuit. You know, would this have been a different story? And I think people will ask this question, so I'll pose it to you. If it had been a teacher who was going to be singing this song in front of the school, would that be a different story?
Potentially, it might have been a little tougher, but under First Liberty's great win in Kennedy versus Bremerton, the Supreme Court held that teachers and students have the right of religious expression and of free speech. And the only standard that's left in terms of that criteria when it's a teacher or a staff member is whether there's coercion present. And so I think you would just have to look at the situation of the talent show. Are other teachers there performing songs about things they're passionate about? Are students free to attend or not attend? Can they walk out if they don't feel comfortable? And my guess is in a talent show situation where staff are allowed to freely participate, it would be just fine for a teacher to express their faith. So the analysis looks a little bit different. But my hope is that the outcome would be similar. But yeah, for student expression, it's very clear, and it always has been. Students are very free to speak and share their faith in a way that's equal with all of their classmates.
Now, if one of them, because when you're talking about children, it's a different story. The power dynamics are different, right? You know, then, so that's why, you know, when you talk about the different analysis, there would be, I mean, is there any world in which somebody, an atheist group could argue, well, when this child is singing the song, they're creating a captive audience in some way, or would that just not stand because it's a child speaking to peers or singing, in this case, to peers?
Yeah, not at all. It is a child expressing their own viewpoint, expressing their own faith, and there's just nothing coercive or harmful about that. Of course, the school can regulate in terms of obscenity, or if there was something that was blatantly inappropriate in a song, then they could step in for that. But this song, very positive message, very much focused on the child's own faith. Even the way it's written, that's who I praise. I want to be like Jesus. I want to be like Moses. It talks about different heroes of the faith. And that's really what matters to this sweet 9-year-old. And that's what he wanted to express to his classmates.
Well, and I can't speak for this school, so I'm not making this statement for this school, but I think we all know that there have been plenty of schools around the country. You deal with cases on this all the time, where lots of other messages have been freely peddled in front of students from teachers, from school staff, from other people within that community that are maybe opposing messages to faith in some way, and they've been allowed to be out there, or conflicting messages with faith. And so it is always interesting when these cases creep up, because you think, well, we allowed all those things to happen for so long without anybody pushing back. And here you have a child who wants to perform a song that reflects his worldview, his beliefs. And as you said, nothing obscene in the song. It's a very positive song. How did the school say that they would remedy this? I know that you had asked them, I believe, to maybe take an additional step when it comes to training. Can you speak to that at all?
Yes, absolutely. One of the organizations that we work with is called Gateways to Better Education, and they have a really great training that I would honestly recommend to anyone who's interested in this topic. It's called the Respect Project. You can find it for free online. It's a 30-minute training, and it's really just the Department of Education's guidelines on constitutionally protected prayer and religious expression in public schools. That's a really helpful guidance document that's recently been updated by the new administration, and it's very, very accurate, very up to date with all of the recent Supreme Court cases. And that guidance does make pretty clear that student religious expression is protected, and that students can sing religious songs and religious music. And it makes sense as a matter of history, because so many of our great composers were religious and they wrote their music for a church setting. You think of all the great choral pieces, Handel's Messiah, Mozart's Requiem, they're all very much with a religious tone. And so to take that out of schools is really to deprive students of, many of the great musical works in our society. But certainly in this situation, it would deprive a little boy of his desire to express his faith. So yes, we've asked the school district to complete that training, and we're hopeful, because they also reported that they're reviewing their communication processes so that in the future, they are able to be more clear about the freedoms that students have. And we really appreciate that. We think this school really did the right thing. And I honestly wish that more schools would follow their example and welcome religious expression at school.
So final question for you, because I think this is actually important. And it's sort of a two-part question, but what would have happened if the parents didn't reach out to First Liberty? And why is it important in your view for First Liberty to do the work that you do?
That's a good question. The way it was looking, probably the little boy wouldn't have made it through the audition. He probably just wouldn't have been allowed to participate at all, or he would have been pressured and forced to change his song and to choose different lyrics that the principal approved. That's wrong. That's unconstitutional. And we're so glad that didn't happen. We think all it took was just a reminder and an education from us about, what his rights were. And we're just so grateful that this family was willing to stand up, because it is so much easier to let the cancel culture and the pressure just silence you. And I think it's really amazing that this family was not willing to do that. And really, their goal was not just for their own kids, but they wanted any kid of any faith at that school to be free to express what matters to them without being shut down, without being canceled. And I think that's really inspiring. It encourages me, motivates me, and the great work that I get to do at First Liberty. We're so thankful for all of our clients, and we're able to help them for free, which is incredible because of our supportive donors. So yeah, I would definitely encourage people to educate themselves about their rights. And certainly if you run into any sort of religious freedom problem, reach out to us at First Liberty. We have a button on our website for requesting legal help, and that's how this dad found us. He just filled out that simple form. We received it right away, and we were able to help. So if that's your story too, we're happy to help.
Well, I so appreciate you, as always, breaking this story down and giving us your time today. Thank you, Kayla.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.